Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Welcome to Season 10 of the Bonsai Zone. Happy New Year. I can't believe this is my 10th season on YouTube. Time has just flown. Today I'm going to be working on this juniper. This juniper was given to me by Joey, and it was a bit of a styling challenge. It had a lot of branches coming from one spot here. I did some initial work to it, some styling work, and I let it grow and recover, and it grew in a lot of new shoots around here, which is really, really nice. So today, I'm going to be pruning it back and maybe changing the styling a bit. I'll show you a picture of what it looked like when I first got it. Here it is today after I gave it its first styling and repotting. It's really filled in. So this is all new here. This is all new up here. So today I'm going to be evaluating the tree and doing some restyling. This is the present front of the tree. I'm going to spin the tree around so you can see it from all angles. So here I go. So lots of branches out the back. And back to the front. I've been looking at the tree, and there's a few things that bother me on it. One is you can see these sections of the branches have a lot of kind of straight sections. There's no taper, no movement to them. And I'm going to do this juniper with clip and grow, so I'm not going to like wire them into spaghetti shapes. So that's a problem, is these branches they're long without any taper or movement. Now, I have all this new growth in here, which is really, really nice to have. So if I want a cascading branch here off to this side, the ideal thing is to prune these ones off and then develop one from one of these shoots. Develop one with interesting movement and taper, clipping, growing it over many years. The other thing, I don't have a lot of growth out front. If you look at the front of this trunk, it's kind of flat here, all the foliage is behind. I do have one shoot on the top here, which is nice. I really like the new growth coming from here. I think that's just perfect. It justifies the curve in the trunk. It gives me something to counterbalance the weight of the canopy over here with a counterbalancing branch over here. Out the back of the tree, you can see this is really nice growth back here. It's already been pruned. It's looking pretty good. However, for the size of the trunk on the tree, it's quite far out. So again, I'm thinking of taking it back and regrowing it from all that new growth that's close to the trunk line. So what I'm saying is there may be some big cuts coming today. You can see on the trunk here, even the trunk doesn't have a lot of taper or movement. It's got, a bit of character because of the bark. This little shoot is going to help thicken up the bottom part of the trunk, giving the illusion of a little more taper. It is even possible in the very far future that the whole top of the tree will come off, and this will be my tree developing this out. It's possible if I want to get more movement and taper in the trunk line, getting rid of this whole top. And that I would probably try and air layer it off, keeping this section because it's quite nice. But that's something years and years from now, and it may change. I mean, if this starts looking really good the way it is, maybe I don't have to do this big chop in the future. If it stays kind of like skinny without any taper, well, maybe then I've got to address it. The other possibility is you can add taper to a juniper by creating some deadwood on it, giving the, carving away part of it so you get kind of, I guess you'd call it artificial taper, but it can be quite effective also. So you take off a dead part either on the top or the bottom, and it creates, the live vein has taper to it. So that's another possibility on a juniper. So I'm looking at the tree now. I'm looking at these branches. So again, these branches, you know, the placement of them isn't bad. Like I've got 2 here. I kept 2 with the possibility of narrowing it down in the future or cutting this one off short. I have growth back here, which is nice. So I think that's probably the ideal thing to do, is to keep this one, which has growth back here, remove this one, which has no growth in this whole section, and develop this as my sort of semi-cascade branch, removing this bottom one. And I've got to decide, here I did a flush cut, and it would heal in, you know, 4 or 5 years probably. So to the point where you wouldn't really notice it was ever cut. I could leave deadwood in this section, but the problem with that is that, you know, the trunk line comes up and then down, and deadwood, because it's light in color, your eye kind of goes to it. And so your eye goes up the trunk line and then down, and it just finishes at the deadwood. It doesn't encourage your eye to flow out the living part of the tree. So I'm steering away from making this deadwood at the bottom and instead doing some kind of stripping operation where I peel back the bark maybe partway up the bottom side of the trunk or something like that to make it look natural, but not so your eye continues down here. So I think that's my plan. So I'm going to start by cutting off the end of this branch. Big changes coming from my juniper today. Let's get cutting. All right, here I go. So I have branches here. I'm going to leave a bit of a stub. So I'll cut it right here. First big cut coming up. Here I go. Just like that. Now, it's possible these juniper cuttings could root. So it's always worth sticking them in a pot, keeping them moist and humid, and maybe you'll get some new trees. So my second big cut is this branch here. And yeah, that's a tough one. Could I just make that deadwood? It looks okay as deadwood. I'm going to try just cutting it off for now. Should I? Once I cut it off, I've got no more healing in this section. So if you do want to, you know, cut it off and create deadwood there, this is what it is. If I leave it alive, I can heal this point here and then cut it off in the future. And I'm thinking that might be a better approach. It's kind of, it'll be hard waiting because you won't really get a good idea of the styling. I guess if I cover it up like that, I will. And it's possible I could get some budding here too, which would probably make me keep both branches. So then I could have like some steps here. This foliage is just too far out. It's too sprawling. So yeah, I guess I'll leave this alive. Hope I get some back budding here. If not, I'll let this cut point heal over a few years, then cut it off. Hopefully it doesn't get too thick by then, but I think it'll help this transition area here. I'm not going to touch these shoots here. They're really nice in the trunk. Most of these ones on the top, I'm just going to let grow too. I'm not going to be selecting branches at this point in time, but in the future I will. So now let's swing around to the back of the tree. Let's look at these back branches now. So here's my cluster of foliage that I want to keep. This branch comes out, it kind of divides, and then I have 2 parallel branches here. I don't have any growth. This is my the newest shoot that's as short as I could prune that branch, and even that would be risky. I'm thinking I have lots of branches coming out the back here. I don't need that one at all. And it is kind of, you know, my trunk line comes up. I guess it's dividing from 1 to 2, but it divides into 3 quite early here. And if I'm going to keep this growth, I don't think I need this branch at all. So I'm going to prune it. The other branch here is better. You can see this is new growth on it. So I can keep that one and just cut off all the long bits. So that's my plan. I'm going to take this branch right off, and the other one I'm going to shorten. All right, now, again, the question is, do I want to make some deadwood here out of this branch instead of just pruning it right off? And I think in this case, deadwood's in order. This one is kind of too thin to make deadwood out of it. Once I strip the bark off, it would be like smaller in diameter than a toothpick. So that's just kind of too thin to make deadwood. So I'm going to prune that one right off, like that. And again, this could be a cutting. The other one is just thick enough, I think, for deadwood. So I'm going to leave a stub here. It's got a bit of movement, and then it goes straight here. So I'll prune it off here, taking that part off. And there's my deadwood, which looks quite reasonable. It sort of fits in with the character of the tree. Now my other branches here, I'm keeping them, but just shortening them. Here is a look at the branches. So it comes out, I've got sort of a single branch. It divides into two here, which is kind of nice. I've got a couple of branches coming off here. I think if I keep this one, it might grow, it'd probably die back without, sap being drawn to the tip by a vigorous branch. Is it worth keeping that? I don't think so. I think I'm getting too far out from the canopy. So I'm going to take it right off. Here I go. That's gone. And then this branch also is going to come right off. And I'm going to leave a stub for dieback to here. Taking that off. Here is a look at the branches I took off the tree today. So a fair amount. Some good healthy branches. Let's have a look at the tree now. Here's a look at the tree, and you have to imagine this gone. And you can see the tree looks much more miniature without these long kind of branches. It's more compact. It makes the trunk look thicker. This trunk does have a little bit of reverse taper, so I'm hoping, this is going to help. Some good root growth and some maybe a slightly larger pot than it needs should help the roots grow and maybe thicken up the trunk, and maybe someday get rid of that reverse taper, or as I said before, I can strip off some of the bark and create sort of the illusion of taper on the trunk. So yeah, so that's kind of the tree. I think it's looking better. I think it's a step forward for this tree. I'll do a fly in so you can see it kind of in 3D. Some different angles above. Yeah, so there's, again, my tree is without this. Here's a look at the juniper cuttings. They're planted in this pot down here. If they live, they live. If they die, they die. I guess I'll know kind of late spring. It's time now for today's updates. Today's update is my Canadian Hemlock tree. I bought this from Chris Hendry. It was just a tiny little, basically a seedling. And I've just been letting it grow, and it's been growing really, really well. Today I'm going to give it a first pruning. The reason I want to prune this tree is that you can see all the branches are just growing straight. They're just shooting out from the trunk down here. So by pruning it back, I can get, a change of direction and a bit of taper to the trunks and branches. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to prune it back so it's more compact, and then let it grow again, and then keep repeating the process over many years. And eventually I'll get a nice thick trunk, and all the primary structure of the tree will have taper and movement. And by then it'll have a lot of character, meaning it'll have mature bark on it and pruning scars that have healed, and it should look pretty old and also miniature. All right, here I go with the pruning. So I'm taking a look at the tree. I have a Tsuga seedling growing in the pot. That's kind of nice. I'll use that in the future. So let's start with these really thick branches. So you can see the trunk line comes up. It divides here. So I think I want to take the top off this branch. So I'm looking for some good subdivisions here. There's lots of them. I could really prune it anywhere there. I think I'll go right here. So here I go. Like that. The other branch beside it, or trunk, or whatever it is, same thing. I've got lots of growth in that area. I could prune it off. Maybe I'll go right here. Like that. There's a branch coming up here. Again, quite vigorous. Lots of branch choices. I'll go right here. There's another one here. I'll take it off right here. And another one here. And this can come back to here. So that kind of gets all the primary branches pruned back. Now you can still see there's a lot of secondary branches that are long, so I'll prune those back. More compact also. So here I go with that, and I'll come back to kind of the branch comes out, it divides into two here. So I'll prune just ahead of that. So my branch comes up, divides from 1 into 2. This one kind of crosses back over the center of the tree, so I'll take it right out. Same with this one. This one I can prune back to here. This one to here. Prune that one back shorter. Just kind of tidying the tree up. Making it more compact. Getting rid of some of these branches that crisscross across the center of the tree. And then further reducing some of the long shoots back. Take out some of the branches crisscrossing across the middle of the tree here. Kind of cleaning out the center here. That's looking much better. You can also see the branch structure much more easily now. There's another branch I can prune back. This one. I think that's getting pretty good. It's certainly sorted out the structure. It's not like a styling of the tree. It's just bringing it back more compact. I'll let it grow out again, and then in the future, once it matures a bit, and then I'll start tackling the trunk lines, which trunks I'm going to keep, if I wanted a single trunk or a multi-trunk, clump style. Yeah, those decisions will come later. But for now, it's just pruning it back, more compact, so you don't get all this long, straight growth coming off the base of the tree. Here's a look at what I pruned off. So a fair amount. And the tree looking quite good. The last update for today is my mulberry seedling. This was just a little seedling that was growing in the backyard. I dug it up, severely root pruned it, top pruned it, planted it in bonsai soil, and it's been doing really, really well ever since. I think this tree is going into year 3 in training. Today I'm going to prune it back. It's grown a little bit over the summer. This tree was pruned over the summer, so there's not a lot of vigorous growth on it. Just some of the shoots have elongated, so I'm going to prune it back, get it ready for spring. All right, so I'm looking for buds that are facing the right direction so I can take this branch back to here. There's a couple of buds here. I'm going to prune this stub off here. There is a bud here, there's one here, they're kind of alternate, or there's some buds right back here. I think I'm going to keep just the one, prune it to there. This one I'll prune back to here. This one. So I'm not looking at the structure of the tree yet, I'm just pruning it for making everything more compact, and then I'll go in and look and see if I need to further remove any branches. You can see here I've got 3 branches going from one spot. Take off all my stubs. Okay, so my arm is getting itchy from the juniper. I must have brushed against it or something. Alright, so now I'm going to step back and have a look at the actual branch structure and see if I need to do any further refinement. I haven't marked the front of this tree, and I have a little marker, a bit of copper wire. See, I do use wire. And I'm going to mark the front of the tree and then style it from there. So I'm just rotating it around. This is a nice view. It shows the trunk. The thicker branch at the division here comes forward. This one's coming backwards. That's quite a nice front view. It's right about here from the camera. So I'll mark that. I'm going to mark it. I don't think there's a better one. Not at the present moment anyway, no. So I'll mark that as the front view, right there. Okay, so there's the front. Now, let's have a look. So here, I have this branch comes up. I have a branch here, a branch there, and I have one in the middle. I think I want to get rid of that middle bit. So it divides from 1 to 2. I have the same thing over here. I have this branch comes out. I don't think I want this one really close to this division, so I'm going to take that out so it divides from 1 to 2. Take the dead bit off the end. The one coming up here, it divides quite early. I think it's this division is too close to this branch, so I'm going to take this part off. And then it'll divide further up here. It'll give this branch a little more room. And this one is kind of getting close to here, so maybe in the future, or maybe right now, I have a bud on the bottom here. If I prune it off here, I could develop this branch a little flatter. It's a possibility, or I could take that one off too. Tough decision. I do want kind of an upright structure, so I don't want this to be more of a horizontal branch. I do want it as an upright trunk. So that gives me 1, 2, 3 upright trunks. So I think if anything, I'm going to prune off the front of this one. Like that. And that gives a little more clearance between these branches. The upper part here, it's looking quite nice. I have a leader, branch to the right, branch to the left, a couple out the back, one here out the front. I think that's all good. Yeah, I think that's quite nice. I'm just lining up the front of the tree for the camera. Yeah, so there's kind of the front. It looks like a pleasing branch structure, something I can build on in the future. Mulberry trees make excellent bonsai. They can get this really nice rough looking bark on them. And if you're lucky, you can get some berries formed too. I was looking at my playlist for season 9. I made 280 videos last year. That's a lot of videos. I really enjoyed making it, and I hope you enjoyed watching them. So this is season 10 coming up, the first video of season 10. Thanks for watching. Every tree on my channel has a playlist for that tree, so you can check the playlists in the description underneath the tree. You can follow the tree going back, some of them going back 10 years, some even more, and follow the progression over time. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.